Good afternoon and welcome to CEC Rural Lecture. In continuation with the discussion on kinship and family, in today's discussion we are going to talk about the theoretical understanding of family. And for discussion we are going to refer to William J. Goody's work on theoretical understanding of family. Now this text is based on the idea of changes that was taking place in family and lot of assumptions or rather false assumption around the understanding of what is a family. So Goody basically tries to understand how do we define a family, what are the functions of family, and the major argument is to understand the transformation that a family has undergone. So we will kind of restrict our discussion to the work of William J. Goody. So by end of 19th century, a number of social scientists started analyzing the impact of family on societal change. Many believed that young adults would choose to form conjugal families because they were all suited to the industrial age. Some of the arguments have proved to be correct, such as the decline of parental control over the children's family life. Now, there are two arguments being made by this. One is that there is an increase in conjugal family. The conjugal family is a unit in which there is a husband, wife and their children. So, this was opposed to the earlier primitive society where there was a kind of a large extended or joint family. And the second argument is that the functions of family are changing. Earlier, the family was more of an authority structure. However, with a kind of the changes that are taking place in society, the impact has been felt within the structures of family where the parents have kind of lost the control authority that they had earlier had over their children. So, with the spread of industrialization, other parts of the world kind of started looking into the Western model, and there was a kind of a comparison between what was in the East versus the West. So, the Eastern society was kind of visualized as a collective unit where the joint family or extended family was the norm. Now, this was contrasted to the Western society where the individual family or the conjugal unit was kind of considered to be a model, and the reference was to the West. So, the Western individual society was considered to be more progressive, kind of more bit, and this conjugal family was seen as something that fitted the industrialized modern society. And there were a lot of characteristics, that is the number of residents or people staying together were less, the bonds were less, so there was not such a strong emotional connect among the families or across generation. Why? Because the sacred or the more importance was given to the work life. Industries were being set up and people were kind of moving out from the domain of the family as a unit of production and going to the factory where impersonal relations were also being built up. So, there was a kind of a comparison between the collective versus the individual, and the West was kind of model as a society where the individual conjugal family was best suited. Now, this argument rested on the idea that the conjugal family form is one of the fits best with advanced form of industrialization, as a job based economy requires independence, extended education and a mobile labor force, features that somehow undermine the traditional family. Now, this calls for a comparison between the traditional family and the modern industrial family. So, at the level of the economy, we see the traditional family was a unit of subsistence production, consumption. With modernity coming in, the market becomes an important space for exchange of goods and services. As a result, there is a kind of distance between the members of the family. Now, you are not independent on each other. You can take up a job in the industry and become independent. Jobs in the industry require high level of skill and education, and that is that it will become extended education. You need certain skill based education, and the labor force is mobile because maybe you get a higher package or a higher compensation, so you will move from one factory to the other. Now, given these conditions of an industrial society, the composition of the size of the family becomes small, and that is why conjugal family was seen as best fit for the industrialized modern society. Now, William J. Goode, in his article, The Theoretical Importance of the Family, explores from a functionalist point of view what defines a family, how the family is a part of a larger social network, and how the family is a mediator between the individual, self and society. So, these are some of the basic argument of this reading, and many of the analysts, social thinkers, philosophers during that time were reporting that the family as a unit was declining. So, the theories, evolutionary theories of social change were coming up with the argument that the family was becoming less significant and it was no longer working the task or doing this, performing the work which was being performed in the traditional family. And this change was seen in three areas. One was production, the second was education, and third was protection. So, production we already discussed, from home based subsistence economy to market based economy. Production was started taking place in the factories and industry. Education, earlier the family would give you the skill based hereditary knowledge, whereas now industry requires informal education. So, skill based education. And protection, there is a kind of shift from family being taking care of protection to services which are required to secure protection in society. William Goode contends that in spite of what one may conclude, the family is on its way out. This may be an assumption or a blind speculation. So, basically a lot of theorization was happening to understand the change in the family, and an understanding was arrived that family would kind of just get obsolete or just move become redundant. And the counter argument was that despite the transformation, despite society moving from a simple illiterate to a modern technology based society, the family still continues to be an integral part of society. So, it is an universal institution. Now, when we try to look into the family as an institution and try to define it, we need to understand how do we study family, because it's something which has a lot of commonsensical assumptions, lot of taken for granted assumptions. So, how do we define or how do we study family? Goode stated that marriage has increased and is at a higher rate than any other time in history of the world, and people are likely as ever to take part in family life. Therefore, the family should be studied with theoretical guidance along with facts and in the same way as any other scientific endeavor. So, the fact that the form and composition has changed does not indicate that there is a decline of the institution. What we need to do is change our way in which we have been conceptualizing or studying the family. Family structures and family roles have been studied throughout time. Although there have been attempts to change society and family through religion, utopia or revolutionary movement, most have failed. So, we will see how there have been several attempts to bring about a transformation in the family, and much of this attempt was because there was certain kind of a false assumption in terms of understanding what the family was, and therefore these attempts were not successful, and family continues to be a significant part of society. So, if we look into the family in modern time, it continues the traditional rights and obligations. So, there is a persistence of the nature and characteristic of a unit called family. There are aspects of some families that appear unstable. However, the family system overall still remains tough and resilient. So yes, there have been data which studies which are showing that there have been increase in divorce rate, or there has been increase in separation, or there are form of multiple forms of family beyond biology. But yet what kind of is continuing or persisting is that it is still an institution which is required to be studied in order to have a complete understanding of society. Gooday points out to two main themes in his reading: the relationship between family member and the relationship between family and society. First, family is made up of individuals that are part of a larger social network. Family is formally developed in all society, so it's a universal institution. The only other social institution that has been part of all society is religion. The second argument that Gooday makes is, many people feel that a traditional family consists of a man, a father, a woman who's the mother, and children. So this is a standard generalized definition of family. Gooday seems to lean towards the traditional family model. He believes that the more a family deviates from traditional family norms, the less likely they will fit into society. So there's a lot of moral and ethical element of the family. It was kind of also considered as a character building institution. So if you are able to kind of fulfill the filial duties in your family, you will lead to the construction of the society, or you will be positive in terms of contributing to the formation of society. So yet we see that family has been an universal institution, but yet there are number of views, there are various views in which it has been understood, or there are a lot of commonsensical ideas of what is a family. It has been understood more as a group for emotional feeling since time immemorial. Philosophers and social scientists have noted that any society is a structure made up of families linked together. So in this context, then family is a subset and the society is the larger set. Earlier moral and ethical writings, that is the religious text, scriptures, have many culture across culture assert the significance of family. If we kind of pick up any epics, any religious scriptures, we see the significance of the family is there, and lot of focus is there on the moral and ethical guidelines, principles that enables individual to lead their life normal. The most common view is that a society loses its strength if family members do not fulfill their obligation. So as I said, family is a subset. So it is there where the norms, the socialization is taking place, and the character building, the personality is happening. So if the family is kind of not a stable and it's kind of not leading to that positive function, then it will have a repercussion on the society, where the society will lose its strength. The religious scholars like Confucius thought that happiness and prosperity would prevail if everyone would behave correctly as a family member. So the moral or the normal family was that each individual member in the family had to do their part, had to do their obligation. So there was a kind of a guiding principle in terms of the idea that this is the correct path, and if everybody was following that path, then there would be happiness and satisfaction. This means primarily that no one should fall or should not fail in their filial obligation. So the cultural importance of the family is also emphasized in the Old Testament. The proper relationship between the ruler and the subject was like that between a father and his children. So the sacredness of the family was that it is kind of an authoritative structure. It's authority and a formal relationship where the authority was being passed down from one generation to the other, and therefore the relationship between the father and the son was like similar to that of a ruler and the subject. However, there were a lot of kind of idea that whatever was mentioned in these moral ethical writings and philosophers, there was a kind of an utopian family. And utopian family in the sense that whatever was being described as a family was presented in terms of a model that would not actually exist. So, the philosophers, social analysts have presented plans for society that might be created, you know. So, progress of the society from say a simple underdeveloped to a more developed, the family was playing an important role, and it was kind of creating that the family could contribute in terms of building a more egalitarian society, a kind of solution to the problems that were being faced by traditional society. But this was a kind of an utopian idea. And Plato's Republic is one such Plato was a philosopher, and his book The Republic is one such attempt where the thinker urges the creation of a society in which all members, men and women alike, would have an equal opportunity to develop their talents to the utmost and to achieve a position in society solely through merit. So, here is a transition which was taking place, and society was moving from say ascribed status or something which was acquired by birth to industrialized, rational, scientific society where it was merit that was important. So, the situation would whether you are egalitarian or you are subordinate and superior would depend on how much of utility of your merit you can do. And in that context, family was visualized as a place where there could be equal relation between man, women and others, and there was kind of fair justice among all. The other attempt in terms of bringing about a change in the family was the political revolution. Now, every fundamental political upheaval since the French Revolution of 1789 offered program that included profound changes in the family relation. So, since World War II, most countries of the world have written new constitution that aimed at creating new family pattern. So, 19th century, the formation of nation state is happening, and rules and regulation jurisdictions were constructed, and family was subject to the state laws. So, there were family laws which were kind of made, and this family was a family which was based on the political philosophies or ideas of the political movements. So, the idea of liberty, equality and fraternity were integral in defining what the new family would be. So, the ideal family was more in conformity with the leader's view of equality and justice, and often antagonistic to the traditional family. So, the traditional family was seen as opposed to the modern family. The traditional was seen as a group where there would be authority, inequality, whereas modern family or the new family was more based on the ideas of equality and justice. So, throughout history, we see that family has been as the central element in human society, and transformation and changes have taken place, but the structures or the core value of the family has persisted. And that is why if we were to understand the modern society, industrial society, another level of comparison is made with the tribal society. And many theories in social science refer to the family in tribal society as a contrast to the modern industrial society. So, the tribal society was described as a place where kinship pattern was the major part of the social structure. So, the kinship was contrasted with the state, nation state, the judiciary of the modern society. However, if we kind of see the transition from or the formation of nation state again does not delineate or does not negate the importance of kinship in modern society. In modern societies, families continues to be key element institutions along with other institutions such as church, state and economy. So, again another level of comparison is the tribal society, kinship and family were the of institution. It was looking after the religious regulation, political structure as well as kind of regulating the society. Post industrialization, reformation, we have a number of institutions coming up as significant, like the state and the economy, the market becomes important, the nation state becomes important, but that does not imply that the family will kind of become insignificant. Rather, the modern society with its complex advanced technology and highly trained bureaucracy would collapse without the contribution of family. The Goode argues that even the class system is based on the institution of family, because how do we have a class? It is again kind of trying to understand whether the class is kind of ascribed or achieved, and see, people are born into if you are born in a rich family, your class is upper class. So, there is a very thin line between these dichotomies, and therefore, we need to kind of look into the ways in which family has been conceptualized. And Goode is arguing that there are many preconceptions about the family. So, the task of understanding the family presents many difficulties, and one of the greatest barrier is the strong emotions about family. We are become very emotional when we talk about a family. We think about the attachment, the individual's deep involvement in individual relationship, and the moment we become emotional and attachment becomes significant, the objective analysis of the family is lost. Learning about other types of family behavior in other classes of society leads to feeling that they are odd or improper. So, we are kind of growing up in our family, in our society. So, the other side or these families which are in other society appears strange to us. And most of the time the thinkers, the philosopher, rather than analyzing different behavior, judgments have been made about the right or wrong. So, a judgment has been made that the individualistic family in the West is kind of more progressive compared to the collective emotional family in the East. And the author is arguing that such a kind of a subjective analysis of the family is incorrect. The second pre-assumption about family is that most of the features of the family are observed, and people observe many people, other families in their behavior, but they have limited experience of the others. And this is what goes on behind what we are not aware of what's happening outside their own family. We have only kind of heard about it. We have never experienced the other side, and that is the reason that the sample of observation is very narrow. So, Goode is pointing out the kind of barrier in terms of doing an objective study of the family. Lot of generalization have been done in terms of kind of defining the family as a conjugal unit, as an universal unit, is based on the study of the behavior in the Western context, and therefore, lot of specific experience have been negated. So, he is saying that there are a lot of false assumptions. One of the false assumption is breakdown of traditional family. The second is in terms of the size of the household, and the third is in terms of the fertility rate. So, we have a lot of counter argument which will tell us that these false assumptions or generalizations are not the right way to study family. A sociological study of family requires more in-depth experience level understanding of the way in which family relations are based, the structures are there, and then not generalized. They can't be kind of a generalized understanding of family, but we have to understand in its cultural specificity. With this, I come to an end of this lecture. Thank you.